Am I the a-hole for telling my parents that I think our brother is done with us? This is going to be a long one, even for Reddit standards. I, 23F, am the youngest in my immediate family. I have two older brothers, 25M and 27M, and my parents, 55M and 54F. To make this easier for everyone involved, I'll call my oldest brother Andy and the younger one Ed. Andy has had a nearly decade-and-a-half grudge against most of our family for something that happened around 14 years ago. It's gotten so bad that he limits contact with our parents, a lot of uncles and aunts, some cousins, and he nearly didn't invite them to his wedding a year back. In 2010, a lot of our family set up a vacation trip abroad to the United States. Pretty much everyone was excited to go since we were going to Florida during the holiday season for my country. Since we were all under 16 at the time, we had to get travel passports and applied months before the trip. Eventually, all the prepping was finished, and we were just waiting for our passports, which took some time to process. Eventually, we got them in person by visiting Home Affairs. The problem started when Andy's application had somehow gotten lost during the process, and the only option at that point was to restart the process entirely for him. This was incredibly rare, and no one knew how it happened. The paperwork just vanished. But we were already less than a month away from actually leaving for the trip. There were no other options to fix it in time. So our family had two options: either we cancel the entire thing and probably lose some money and whatever time we invested in this, or we go without him but leave him with our aunt, who was pregnant with her first kid and would be staying in our home country with her husband. The family chose to go anyway since everyone was really looking forward to it, and the kids involved would be heartbroken if we just canceled at the last minute. Andy's happiness and excitement for the trip did a complete 180 into him being bitter and angry about it. Our parents, aunts, uncles, and grandparents really tried to explain that it wasn't personal and was a complete accident, and that they'd make it up to him in the future, but he was having none of it. He pretty much stopped talking to everyone, and we all eventually left for the 2-week trip. Our parents gave our aunt extra money to spoil him and take him out during the 2 weeks to make it less unfair for him. But she told us he didn't do anything except stay in the guest room and play his instruments and his Xbox 360. So our group of over 20 had fun and whatnot. I admit it was the best vacation we'd ever had as a family. We never got something so extravagant ever again, because all the adults pooled their Christmas bonuses and vacation savings together for this trip. I feel bad for my brother since we visited Disneyland, SeaWorld, and spent time eating out and at the beach. For a 9-year-old girl, meeting all the Disney princesses was something out of this world, and it's something I still fondly remember. Ed and our male cousins loved SeaWorld and the rides at Disney. Mobile phones weren't as prevalent back then, but we had cameras, so obviously pictures were taken. We got back, and my brother was completely ice cold to every single person who went on that trip. He refused to speak to me or Ed for weeks, even after we went back to school. Our parents really felt bad about this and hoped he would get over it, so they tried really hard to talk it through with him. Andy just called them traitorous and said he knew where we all stood now. His anger got so bad that he actually punched holes through a few doors in the house on his bad days. Whenever our parents tried to calm him down or reprimand him, he would just scream at them and tell them they had nothing on him. That became his go-to instant argument ender, even if he was in the wrong. It always came back to this trip and how he'd never be able to experience it. Whenever we were at family events from that point on, he'd always scream at everyone to shut up if anyone even mentioned the trip. He ripped up the pictures we'd printed and tore up one of my plushies from the trip. He started using swear words often around us all and even insulted people in vulgar ways. Our mom had enough and slapped him when he insulted one of our female cousins, called her a selfish bitch during an argument when she continued pressing him after he'd played the left out of the vacation card. He completely snapped on us and threw the biggest freakout I'd ever seen in my life. I'm talking throwing glasses and plates, flipping tables with food on them over. He ruined the day and scared a ton of our family, including our baby cousin who was around 3 at that point. He had to be restrained by some of the men in the family and carried into his room after that, and our parents got extremely worried about his behavior. I never saw my brother get so angry ever again, and I cried like a baby when he did. My mom still wishes she never set him off. They tried to get him help for his anger issues, and it seemed to work when he met his therapist, who he still sees today, some months later. He didn't have another outburst like that again, and my parents never laid a hand on any of us after that. It was common to get a hiding or slap for most kids our age at that time if we really misbehaved or did something bad. So please don't shout abuse in the comments, and if I ever have kids, I won't be touching them like that at all. Just different cultures, he was just never the same again. He had no interest in family time anymore and he outright quit the marching band to my dad's and grandfather's disappointment, though he still kept up trumpet and learned guitar by himself. Music runs in our family, but my oldest brother was the only one who wanted to play any instruments, and he dissociated from us at church, sitting by himself in another section, which really stung for my parents. But to pretty much everyone else, he was exactly the same. He had our aunt and her husband do his confirmation, which was really something else. It's pretty silly, but the most accurate way to describe it was like Jekyll and Hyde. Cold and hateful to anyone involved with the trip, but his normal cheerful self to everyone else to maintain appearances. There were a few dicey decisions my parents made that ruined the already strained relationship between us and him. Namely, letting me and Ed go abroad during school trips. When you reach grade 9, you choose 3 elective subjects to take during grades 10 to 12. This is pretty much the starting point of your career, so you have to choose wisely. He went for business, physics, and accounting since he enjoyed those and wanted to go into fields related to those subjects. Ed and I went for subjects that offered school trips, tourism and geography respectively, since they were easy and enjoyable for us. The thing with tourism and geography is that they introduced excursions abroad for those classes the year before my brother matriculated. If we didn't go, our parents would have had to let us stay in school doing nothing since most teachers and students would be on said trip. So they paid for me to go to Vietnam and for Ed to go to Prague. When my brother found out, he was livid, but didn't scream or anything. Our family couldn't afford another Disney-level trip again, but they could afford smaller ones like these. They could have sent him to do the same vacation alone, but he was underage. My parents offered to let him vacation on his own after he was 18, but he didn't react well. He told them it was too little, too late, and some other colorful things. Paraphrasing, what the hell is the point of doing that cock alone? Cock equals shit. He kept it that way throughout high school, even when it went online, and did pretty well for himself. He managed to finish in the top 15 of his grade for his final year, which was a big deal, and he kept an A aggregate for most of his subjects. He scored a bursary for his university studies and moved to campus. That was pretty much the last time we saw him regularly. Literal years passed without any messages, and my parents watched his social media like hawks to make sure he was okay. He only spoke to his grandmas on both sides of the family, and our aunt, her husband, and their daughter. He met his now wife, and they married years later. She invited us since he didn't want to speak to us directly. Ed and I think we were only invited because our grandma was on her last legs with her cancer getting worse, and he didn't want her to feel miserable about this before she passed. So he probably invited us for her sake. We were placed in the middle section, which wasn't bad, I guess. What was painful was seeing him act so nicely to his wife's family. Since then, he showed up for our grandma's funeral a few months ago. But he clearly hates being around us and would rather be anywhere else. Now, it's an occasional dry call my mom makes to him just to check on him. The family is still feeling raw about this, and my parents keep bringing it up with their siblings and the remaining grandparents. One day, I just spoke my mind and said that he doesn't care about us anymore and that we should just move on. I understand why he's hurt and think it's better if we just let this relationship die out if Andy wants it to. If he gets over it, we can all talk and try to put it behind us. My mom got really sad about it, and my dad and a few others argued with me for wanting to abandon him and insisted he'd come around eventually. Ed is also leaning toward leaving it up to Andy to make the first move if he ever wants a relationship with us again. So yeah. Am I the a-hole? Going to work, so I won't be able to add info or respond for a bit. Final update. I was not expecting such a big response to my first ever post, and I saw a lot of comments asking questions. So I made this new post to help answer the most common ones I saw. This is also pretty long. 1. Why didn't your parents/family find a way to expedite the process of getting a passport? I failed to mention this in my post, but I am from South Africa. I don't think there was an option to do so 14 years back. But I will say that Home Affairs has been doing a lot better, and now you can get most of your needs met within 7 business days if you're lucky. Emergency passports are only granted for deaths in the family and medical reasons, and as far as I'm seeing on websites, only apply for getting back to South Africa. And I have doubts a vacation counts, nor would the USA accept that request. There was a cancellation fee for his airline ticket, although I believe my parents got a credit on their account. If we all canceled, that fee would be per person, so we'd end up losing even more money. The Disney ticket he had remained unused, since I don't think they do refunds. I think he ripped it up anyway during a bad tantrum after this all went down, so we couldn't do anything. We couldn't just move the date either, or else we'd be cutting into the start of the new school term. 2. My parents/someone sabotaged his application or never submitted it. Interesting idea, but not possible. My parents wouldn't waste everyone's time spending an entire morning at Home Affairs getting these passports sorted out. These applications also cost money, so they weren't happy when his application and the money they paid vanished either. I do remember a lady helping us process his application for free when they complained, but she couldn't promise that it would be done in time due to it technically being a new application. Also, I was only 9 and had no reason to do this. And how would I even accomplish this? 3. The family never made it up to him. This I will have to disagree with. My entire extended family showered him with attention and tried their best to make this at least somewhat even. My parents continued to take us out on vacations most years when we could afford it. Club Mykonos and the Kruger National Park come to mind. My aunt even let Andy come with her husband, and their daughter on a cruise for a few days, but that went up to Namibia only. His birthday that year was extra special because everyone still felt bad about it. When his anger boiled over, they booked him into anger management classes and therapy. I just think whatever they could offer him wasn't enough to match what he missed out on. Our parents didn't want to do a vacation abroad with just him, since they were worried about his state of mind, and the therapy costs were not cheap. They tried to offer him a solo abroad vacation when he was 18 during the December holidays, but he cussed them out and decided to take a part-time job instead. 4. There was some blatant favoritism/mistreatment. If anything, he was the favorite kid of the family. He's the second oldest of us kids but the first one to achieve anything great academically. It was always about how he'd managed to do so well in his grades, or how he won something in athletics, and how proud he made our grandpa for playing trumpet so well. He just made it unbearable to have the same surname. My primary school teachers always asked about him. When I didn't do well on a test, my parents were like, "Just ask Andy for help." Even when I did something great, it was just like your brother. The same thing happened to everyone else, and that's a big reason why no one else wanted to learn a musical instrument from our grandpa, except for our oldest cousin who already played. Andy never bragged about his achievements, but our family certainly did. His trophies and certificates sat front and center in our lounge for everyone to see. In terms of being mistreated, I can only think of one person he hates. Chris is the oldest of the kids, and the female cousin he screamed at in my previous post. She's 7 years older than Andy. When she was 12, she talked Andy into pulling on the whiskers of our pit bull. Our pit bull bit his face in retaliation and he had to get stitches in his chin. He still has scars on either cheek to this day. Their relationship fell apart after that, and he still hates her for it. She hates him because he became the favorite. Her being the one to press him during that argument made him completely cut her off. She did not receive an invite to the wedding. Probably the only red line he had, even when Grandma begged him to invite us. He has a good relationship with our aunt's daughter, youngest cousin. He tutors her in math when she struggles. 5. Why did we get to go to Prague and Vietnam? These were school trips, so teachers and chaperones accompanied the students the entire time. There was some free time to explore, but it was mostly a fixed schedule. Andy got over it in a week since he didn't think it was worth giving up subjects he liked and did well in just for a 5-day trip. If anything, he wouldn't want to change his choice. His business class was kind of the reason he got his scholarship, so I'm sure he's glad about that. 6. How I feel about all this. When I was 9, I didn't understand where he was coming from at all. I thought it was unfair for him to get mad over something I had zero control over. Then he started raining on our parade whenever we talked about the vacation, which made the rest of us start to hate him back. I know it was wrong, but we did it to spite him. It was always something we did to get a reaction out of him. I remember that Ed used to wear one of the Mickey Mouse shirts he got at home solely to make Andy angry. I joined in after he ripped up one of my plushies. All that stopped after the braai where Andy finally snapped. I fully admit I was an asshole for doing that to him. But since then, it's been over a decade of him just tolerating us. I know he hates us, and I don't want to force him into our presence anymore. He doesn't seem to care if his wife stays in contact, which I think is the best we're going to get. I think most of this is our parents worrying about him having kids, as stereotypical as this sounds. If there are any more questions, I can probably answer them in the comments.